They say betrayal from strangers wounds your pride, but betrayal from family? That scars your soul. The day my sister walked into the office wearing the badge I'd fought years to earn, I felt something in me shatter, and I hadn't even heard the worst part yet. But fate, I've learned, has a poetic way of bringing truth to the surface, especially when you least expect it. My name is Jenna Brooks, 29, brand strategist, lifelong perfectionist, and the woman whose sister took the job she wasn't supposed to even know about. We used to share clothes, secrets, and late-night dreams. Now we barely shared eye contact at least, that's how it was, until the moment her boss looked across the room and said my name like it was a memory he'd never forgotten. It started 6 months ago, when I applied for a senior strategist role at BNR Creative Group, a top-tier firm in Chicago known for launching million-dollar campaigns like it was second nature. I spent weeks preparing, rehearsed for interviews in front of mirrors. My portfolio was airtight, but then came the rejection email, polite, vague, and final. No explanation. No second round. I sat frozen in my apartment, feeling like the air had been knocked out of my chest. Why hadn't I even made it to round 2? That question haunted me until my sister, Olivia, casually mentioned over dinner that she'd started something new. She wouldn't say where at first, just hinted at it. A look here, a brag there. She was always better at charm than confession. And then one day, her LinkedIn updated. Brand strategist at BNR Creative Group, the same role. The same title, the job I had poured my entire self into. I called her, voice shaking. You knew I applied for that job. She paused. Yeah. I didn't think you'd get it, honestly. They were looking for something different. I just happened to know someone who got me in. Her words hit me like ice water. Cold. I had opened the door to this industry for her. Introduced her to branding when she was still unsure about career paths. Now she was sitting in my seat, and the worst part? She didn't even look sorry. I wanted to scream. Instead, I went quiet. I didn't even tell our parents. She beat me to that too. Jenna's been going through a rough patch, but I just got this amazing offer. She had said I became the forgotten sibling in our family group chat. The one everyone thought needed time to figure things out. But I wasn't lost, I was angry, and underneath that anger was something more dangerous. Clarity. I threw myself into freelance work. Small clients. Long nights. Building brands from scratch while Olivia bragged online about launching million-dollar projects. But slowly, something started shifting. Clients I worked with were getting noticed. My name, once whispered in junior roles, was being tagged in comment sections and passed around marketing circles. People remembered my work ethic, my style, my results, and one day, someone unexpected remembered me too. It was at a branding summit in the city, an invite-only meeting for major clients and agencies. I was there consulting with a startup that had earned a last-minute ticket to pitch. I was background support, until the keynote speaker walked in. His name was Cal Monroe, creative director at BNR, Olivia's boss. The same man who had seen my resume and, apparently, passed on it. He scanned the room, then paused mid-sentence. Jenna, he said, blinking like he'd seen a ghost. Heads turned. Including Olivia's. She was there too, front row, flanked by colleagues. Her eyes widened. My stomach turned. But Cal? He walked straight to me. Why didn't you follow up after we missed your second-round interview? He asked. I blinked. I never had a second-round interview. The room went still. He frowned, confused. But we sent the invite. You never responded. Olivia's face went pale, the rest unraveled like a bad movie. Cal pulled up the records. An interview request had gone out, but not to my email. It was intercepted, forwarded and deleted from my account. IT confirmed it later. The login happened from my parents' Wi-Fi. On Olivia's laptop. I had been sabotaged by my sister. I wanted to storm out, to cry, to scream at her in front of everyone, but I didn't. I stood there as Cal's eyes darkened, realizing the level of betrayal that had played out in his company's name. Then he did something unexpected. He offered me a meeting that we met 2 days later. Not just with Cal, but the agency's managing director. They'd reviewed my portfolio, contacted past clients, and even found a pitch I'd built 3 years ago that had inspired one of their recent campaigns. Your work speaks volumes, they said. And frankly, we owe you more than an apology. They didn't offer me Olivia's job. They offered me one above it. When I started the following month, Olivia avoided me like the plague. I didn't gloat. I didn't speak of the past. But the office buzzed with quiet whispers and awkward glances. The truth had traveled faster than either of us expected. She resigned 3 weeks later, citing new opportunities. She couldn't face me. Not because I had one, but because she'd buried her own integrity in the process. Why new title? Senior Creative Lead. I oversaw the very department she once tried to block me from entering, and you know what? I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. Like justice had found its way back home, but I also felt something unexpected, sadness, because I'd lost a sister long before I gained the title. Months passed. The buzz died down. My campaigns soared. Clients stayed loyal. Promotions came quietly. My inbox stayed full, and my home stayed quiet. Then one night, a message appeared. From Olivia, I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting myself. I was just insecure and jealous. You always had the talent. I just had access. I stared at it for a long time. She had finally said it. But what do you do with an apology built on ashes? I didn't respond right away. Some things need more than words. They need time, but I didn't delete the message either. Because somewhere, beneath the betrayal, was a memory of two sisters who once dreamed side by side. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a future where those girls could meet again. For now, I focus on the work, on the women I mentor, on the junior strategists who remind me of myself at 23, hungry, hopeful, and a little afraid. I tell them what I wish someone told me: your path will twist. People will betray you. But if you stay true to your craft, your name will carry its own weight. I no longer walk into rooms hoping to be noticed. I walk in knowing I belong, and that moment, the one where Olivia's boss recognized me before I ever spoke a word, was the turning point, not because he gave me a job, but because he gave me back my name. Weeks passed after Olivia's message. I stared at her apology more times than I could count. Sometimes I drafted responses and deleted them. Other times, I just sat there, wondering what kind of relationship we even had now that we'd grown up sharing bunk beds and birthday cakes. I remembered when she cried in my arms after her first heartbreak. I remembered how I helped her practice for job interviews, even as she passed off some of my ideas as her own. Maybe the betrayal had started long before I realized. But the love had too, and that's what made it all so confusing. Still, love doesn't mean staying where you've been hurt. A few months into my new role, we landed a major international account, one of the biggest rebrands our agency had handled in years. During the pitch meeting, the client, a sharp, silver-haired woman named Maureen, shook my hand and said, "I've heard your story." I blinked. She smiled. "Cal told me, in confidence. What happened? What you overcame?" I froze, unsure how to feel. But then she leaned in. "We want people who rise after being dragged down. People who don't just talk about resilience, they live it. That's why we chose your team." For the first time, my pain wasn't just a backstory, it was my strength. I didn't hear from Olivia for a while after that. Not until our mother had a minor health scare and we both ended up at the hospital. The room was filled with sterile light and awkward silence. She stood at the foot of Mom's bed. I stood at the head. After Mom drifted off to sleep, Olivia finally spoke. "I'm working at a nonprofit now. Youth mentorship. It's different." I nodded. "Sounds like a good place to start over." She looked at me, eyes raw. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I am trying to be better." And for once, it felt like she meant it. That a month later, a letter showed up at my office. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it carefully, unsure what to expect. "Jenna, I've admired you from a distance for a long time. I never had the courage to say it out loud. You never let the world break you, even when I tried to. Watching you succeed has been the most painful, humbling, and inspiring experience of my life. I'm proud to be your sister, even if I no longer deserve the title." I pressed the letter to my chest. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but this, it was a start. I sat down one night and opened my old journal, the one I kept in college. I flipped to a page where I'd written, "One day, I'll be sitting at a big conference table, and people will listen to me, not because I'm loud, but because I'm good." I smiled. That girl had no idea what was coming. No idea she'd be betrayed, overlooked, underestimated. But she also had no idea how strong she'd become. So I wrote her a letter. You'll make it, not in the way you expected, but in the way you need. You'll turn pain into power, loss into leadership, and one day, you'll walk into a room, and the very people who dismissed you will wonder how they missed your brilliance. Olivia and I still aren't what we once were. Maybe we never will be. But at Mom's birthday last month, she sat beside me at the table, handed me a slice of cake, and whispered, "You were always the one who knew how to fix things. I'm just learning now." I didn't say much back. I didn't need to. Forgiveness is a quiet thing, after all, and sometimes it shows up not in words, but in the simple fact that we can share a table without tension, and share a story without shame. Today, I lead a team of 15. We work on global campaigns, mentoring rising talent, and rewriting how women show up in the creative industry. My story comes up often, not for sympathy, but as proof that resilience leaves a trail others can follow. I speak at conferences now. Not as a victim, not even as a survivor, but as a leader who knows what betrayal costs, and what it can teach. When I say, don't let anyone take your name out of the room where it belongs, I mean it, because I lived it. My dream job was stolen. My trust was shattered. My path detoured in ways I never imagined, but sometimes, you don't get your dream job, you build a life that's bigger than the dream, and one day, the very people who tried to outshine you will sit in your shadow, quietly learning what integrity really looks like. I am not just the sister whose job was taken, I am the woman who got it back, on her own terms, and that made all the difference. 6 months into my new position, I was asked to present at a leadership roundtable for female executives in branding. The invite came with an impressive roster of VPs, CEOs, even a few global CMOs. But one name made me freeze: Olivia Brooks. She wasn't there to present. She was listed under attendees from nonprofit organizations. For a moment, I debated canceling. But I didn't. Because the past doesn't dictate the future unless you let it, and I wasn't running anymore. When I walked into the conference room, she saw me immediately. Her shoulders stiffened, but her eyes didn't carry the same sharpness. They used to. She gave a small nod. I returned it. Nothing more to my presentation went well, better than expected. One of the panelists asked me about failure, and I paused, then told the story. Not with names. Not with bitterness. But with truth. I lost something I thought I earned once, I said. But it gave me something better: character. And the chance to build from the ground up, knowing no one could take it from me again. When I glanced toward Olivia, she was staring down at the table. But when I passed by her on the way out, she quietly whispered, "You were brilliant." A week after the conference, she invited me for coffee. I hesitated, but curiosity won out. We met at a quiet corner cafe we used to visit as teenagers. There was something poetic in that, returning to the beginning after so much had unraveled. "I needed to hear you speak," she said. "Not just because of the story, but because I needed to see what healing looks like." I didn't interrupt. I let her talk. I used to think I had to win at any cost. That being first meant being enough. But I watched you rise, and it broke every lie I told myself. She was crying by the end of it. Not loud sobs, just quiet, steady tears of someone finally seeing her own reflection clearly. "I know I may never earn your trust again," she said. "But if you're willing, I'd like to learn from you." The air between us shifted. For the first time, I saw not the girl who stole from me, but the woman trying to rebuild herself, and something inside me softened. Months later, I proposed a new initiative at work, a mentorship incubator for young women from underserved communities, especially those entering creative industries. I called it the Sister Project. When HR asked if I had a co-director in mind, I gave them Olivia's name. It shocked even me. But forgiveness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And if she truly wanted to change, she needed the same opportunity one once fought for, a second chance. She said yes. Before I finished the sentence, working together wasn't easy. Old habits rose. Old wounds surfaced. But we built new ground too, brick by brick, boundary by boundary, and slowly, we stopped being two stories in conflict, and started becoming one of redemption. Our project is now partnered with 3 agencies, and has helped over 120 women find internships, scholarships, and job placements. And every time someone asks, "Are you two really sisters?" we share a knowing glance: yes. And it's a story we're still rewriting. Years later, I was interviewed for a national feature on leadership and resilience. At the end, the journalist asked, "If you could go back and relive that betrayal, would you?" I thought hard. "Yes," I said. Because pain introduced me to the strongest version of myself. And forgiveness? It gave me back my sister. The article went viral. But more than that, it opened conversations in boardrooms, classrooms, and living rooms across the country. Turns out, my story wasn't rare. Just rarely spoken aloud. Olivia and I still carry the weight of the past, but now we carry it together. She's the godmother to my daughter. And every time she reads her a bedtime story, I think about how cycles can break, not with vengeance, but with courage. We don't get to choose how people hurt us, but we do get to choose who we become afterward. I chose truth. I chose strength. And eventually, I chose grace. That's the real story. Not about a job lost, but a soul found.